Hi everyone, welcome back to the Salt and Sauce podcast, looking at Edinburgh football, their two biggest football clubs, Hearts and Hibs, with a best friend on either side, myself representing Hearts, and Robert, you're representing
The Highbees.
very smugly so. Um, Lots planned for you on the episode. Obviously, that's the season over, certainly for both of the Edinburgh clubs, Scottish Cup final, but neither of us wanted to be there anyway. So we'll look back at the most recent games, two games to look back at. We'll look at the big manager news for Hearts. We knew it was coming, but it's official now. Derek McInnes in charge. We'll then have a wee look back over the season at some of the highlights and indeed some of the lowlights before having a wee look ahead to the summer as to what we think each club needs going into next season. Before we do that, though, we'll do a quick shout out for the sponsor. Robert, do you want to do the sponsor shout out this week?
Yeah, so our sponsor is Mintbox Removals. Dave, the man they love to hate, his company. Um, as Stuart said previously, not a very well liked man, but his company certainly is. So if you need any removal, they're really professional. And just hit them up. Their details are on the screen there.
And he'll need a pick me up after Aberdeen slumped to fifth place at the weekend.
He certainly will. He certainly will.
So yeah, well, let's look at how that ended up being. So going into the two games last week, obviously for Hearts it was nothing really, nothing to play for. We will talk about those games briefly, but for Hibs, it seemed like a while ago now, but there was still an element of doubt as to what was going to happen. Um, it was always likely that you were going to end up in third, but certainly far from impossible to think that you could have ended up in fourth. There was a definite certain set of results that could have seen you in fourth, and it wouldn't have been overly surprising. But Robert, last two games, you must be delighted.
Yeah, no, I am. I'm absolutely thrilled. I can barely hide my pride with the team. So looking at the St Mirren game, we were saying what a difficult place it is to go. They were the
Mm.
only team in the league that we haven't won against. And I think Hearts, Hibs, Rangers, Celtic, you know it's going to be a tough game when you go there. So Robinson sets out his teams to be physical, but not only physical, they can play a bit as well. And their forwards are a handful. They're usually well drilled, well organised. And to be fair to Robinson, he has replicated that over a few seasons on a very little budget. So we knew it was going to be a tough game. Not an ideal place to go when you need a result, particularly at the end of the season when fatigue is setting in mentally, physically, and obviously we had a lot of pressure as well. So I was delighted with how we started the game. Front foot, really squeezing the game, turning their defenders, not giving them a minute. And we caught St Mirren on the hop a bit,
Mm.
and we end up taking the 2-0 lead. I'm not going to go into minute detail about it because we've just got so much to cover.
Yep.
But Boyle has a really nice finish, and then Kukurevich does as well. And we go in at 2-0, and you're thinking to yourself, right, this is dreams. We're one of the most difficult places to go. We're taking care of our own business. As I said before, don't rely on other teams.
Mm.
Do your job
Done and done.
first. That's what it looks. That's what it looked like we were doing. So we're 2-0 up, plain sailing, and then in the 45th minute, right before halftime, a time Hibs love conceding in is either right before halftime or in like the 80th minute.
Yep.
And we must be up there with um the teams that have conceded in that like time in those time frames. So it was really disappointing. It was a really disappointing goal to lose. But you're still thinking 2-1 would have taken that half time, but their tails were up then. And second half, we just never really got going. There were a couple of kind of half chances in the second half, but you always felt like an equaliser was coming. But at the same time, I was keeping an eye on the Aberdeen Celtic score as well. I was fearing the worst because I was like, Celtic have put out literally a third string team. They had some third and probably fourth choice players, which is scary. And as the scores started to come in there, I started to get less and less worried.
Yeah.
And I started lying back on my recliner sofa, Stuart, and starting putting my feet up. Uh, just starting to relax then as the game kind of went on then. And then by the final whistle, it was quite clear that Aberdeen weren't even going to get a draw. So even if St Mirren were to get the winner, which look, they had a very good second half, and if they had squeezed the winner, it wouldn't have been overly surprising. But look, we held on for the draw, lots of last ditch defending, and we ended up with a point, which
Forgetting the ramifications of that result, just purely looking at the game, 2-2 fair.
I would say it's about fair. We were the better team in the first half, and they were the better team in the second half. The 2-0 at halftime wouldn't have been a disgrace, but they were the better team in the second half. So I'm not saying Hibs deserved to win. I definitely don't think we deserve to lose. But St Mirren were very good, so props to them for not just throwing in the towel. And whatever Robinson did at halftime and his changes, they really made a difference because we were really under the cosh, and it wouldn't have surprised me had they got that winner. So I was quite happy with the 2-2, to be honest. And obviously with the Celtic Aberdeen score, which was a disgrace for Aberdeen, really, to lose to a third choice Celtic team, which was still strong. Look, still probably would have won against most teams in the league, but what a chance they had to try and put a bit of pressure on Hibs, and I think they kept it tight for the first kind of half, and then in
Yeah.
the second half, I don't know what happened. They capitulated.
Well, I mean, they had to open up a bit, I suppose, Aberdeen. Like they knew what they needed to do, and so if once you open up against Celtic, I mean, you know, anything can happen. And actually, I heard one of the pundits say Celtic could probably finish first and second in the league if they fielded their second choice team.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
that's just what they've got. And oh yeah, look, obviously it's a bad result for Aberdeen losing to, as you say, second, third, fourth choice Celtic players. But I get it. I get that they had to open up and go for it. There's no point in them losing 2-1 there. They
yeah,
might as well go for it and try and nick the draw. But um, if I'm a Hibs fan in that situation, I'm thinking if we can earn it ourselves,
yeah,
that's always better. And you have obviously done that. You actually had enough points, I think you went into the split with 53 points.
yeah.
Uh, Now I know obviously it would have meant more points for Dundee United and Aberdeen, but you'd have been good enough with that anyway, even without picking up any points. So you have absolutely done it yourself over the
Yeah.
course of the season.
And absolutely, and what I would say that even with what we discussed, the last kick of the game, Triantis goes on like a worldie. He's through on goal, and you just think you just have to score. Last kick of the game, pretty much. Does excellent skill, beats a few players, and like he puts it past the keeper, and the St Mirren defender somehow gets in the way. He should score, but he gets in the way. But I just thought that would have been like the perfect end to it. Beating the team that we haven't beaten all season despite our run. But look, beggars can't be choosers, and a point away when we didn't play our best by any means. But what I would say is that, as you say, Stuart, we did earn it ourselves. We didn't lose and then Aberdeen lose
Mhm.
to get there. So it just meant that we could enjoy the final day then.
Absolutely, yeah. And speaking of which, another 2-2 draw at home to Rangers, obviously. Quite an entertaining game. Neither team had anything to play for, and I wonder if that meant, they could just go out and play freely. What were your thoughts on the game there?
I, I was expecting a high scoring game
Yeah, I
because
five.
because of that reason. Both teams had nothing to play for. Barry Ferguson's last game.
Yeah.
Rangers and Hibs have that rivalry as well. Hibs looking to finish the season on a high, no pressure. So I thought it would be a very attacking game from both teams, and it was. That's exactly what it was. Um, Rangers were the better team. Like I can't say they weren't.
Yeah.
Um, they had some big chances, and they didn't take them. And if you keep Hibs in the game, at least this David Gray team in the game, we've still got a chance, and we didn't give up. Going 1-0 down, the heads could have gone down. There was none of that. We still looked a threat. Martin Boyle was a thorn in their side all game. Bowie, Hoylett, these guys, we looked dangerous anytime we were going forward as well. Rangers didn't absolutely batter us, but they had the better chances. And you need that bit of luck as well. And the bit of luck probably came with the VAR call, which,
Yeah, I'm actually going to side with Hibs on this one though. I know the whole point is, well, first of all, I think we should just have goal line technology. If we've
yeah,
got VAR, we should have goal line technology. I think though, when the ball's in the air, it can look really really clear, but actually the whole thing with the circumference, whole ball has to be over. There is no way you can say for 100% certainty whether that is in or out. I think it is absolutely probably in, but that's not 100%.
I was looking at it, and I have a really good angle where I sit at Easter Road into that goal. And like, I was like, that is a goal. that we and we go up the other end then, and
Or
Boyle goes down the wing, cuts it back to Bowie, excellent finish on his left foot.
you
And
go.
I was just thinking, we're going to go from 1-1 here to 2-0 down, because they're going to go to VAR and see that that's a goal
Mm.
and then reverse their decision. But they didn't. And as you say, if you don't have an angle where you can 100% say that is over the line, then you can't give it.
No.
And look, unfortunately for Rangers, and fortunately for Hibs, that was the call that they couldn't see. But if I was a betting man, I'd say it was over the line. But again, I don't know 100%. But we do need goal line technology. Had that
Yeah.
been for Hibs and it cost us third place,
Oh,
we wouldn't be seeing the funny side of it. So,
I would.
um, well, of course. But I'm just saying it's these big calls need to be right, and whether it was in or whether it was out, we need to have technology that kind of says that.
This is something that I know you and I have discussed before, Robert. And as well as Hibs have been playing, and as much as they've earned third spot, I'll say that clearly. You talk about these calls going a certain way. I think a big part of Hibs' run is that a lot of these calls have been going your way. The Celtic one, the Rangers one, the Sam Dalby disallowed goal. I think there's been a lot going in your favour during that time, as well as you have been playing and as much as you've deserved it anyway. Um, and it's something I've come back to a few times with Hearts. I feel like any time there is luck involved, whether that's good luck or bad luck, I feel like we're getting the bad luck at the minute. And I feel like Hibs are getting the good luck at the minute.
Yeah, but in saying that as well, I just want to make a point about that goal as well. Bashiri is pushed into the goals with two hands as well when he was about to clear it. So, uh,
Yeah,
for all the Rangers fans crying about it online and everything, they could have given a foul anyway, and that
yeah. I, I
it's
saw
matter.
I actually saw a Hibs fan post saying Rangers fans, you're wrong because a foul is given, but that's obviously not true because they play on. So the foul isn't given. I agree. It certainly could have been given, because there is a push there. But I saw a few Hibs fans saying it was like as in the foul was given by the ref, but
No, no, it wasn't given. No,
that's obviously not true because you went up and scored.
yeah, yeah,
So
and
I don't know where they're getting that from.
it was an excellent finish, and
Yeah, it was a good goal.
get ourselves back in the game. The first goal was horrendous. Smith kicks it out,
Oh yeah,
and it goes to their player. And Desser's really good finish. To be fair, so a fair play to him. 1-1, and then the game is kind of in the balance. Then we come into it a bit more. Again, we weren't at our best on Saturday at all. And I just need to remind myself of when Rangers did score their second. So yeah, it was after half time. Right
yeah,
after half time, they come out and Raskin scores for them. And you're just thinking to yourself, right, this could go one of two ways. Either we're going to get back in the game or we're going to get humped here. Because we did not look that comfortable at the back.
Can I ask quickly on the Rangers goal? We've praised Bashiri a lot, and most I don't think this is a howler. Should Bashiri be losing in the air to Raskin?
No, not at all.
Hmm.
Should be tighter than that and should be winning it, absolutely. Um, but what I would say is, apart from that, he did have a good game, Bashiri again. But again, it is a time where he'll probably feel himself he could have done better. What I will say about him was he defended with like everything all game. He was throwing himself into tackles. He didn't get bullied, and Des is a good player.
Very good.
And okay, he scored that goal because Smith makes a howler for the first. But apart from that, I thought Bashiri was really really good. One of our better players that day. So we come back into the game then. We started Nicky Cadden as well in the game, which was really good because his crossing ability and he does what Nicky Cadden does. And for some reason, I think Barry Ferguson said post match in one of the interviews I heard, it was something like, we can't give him that much space because, anyone watching Hibs and doing the data, looking at the data, you'd stop Nicky Cadden, get tight to him, don't let him cross. He doesn't need much space. They don't. He gets space, lovely, lovely crossing.
Oh my
And to
gosh.
be fair to Boyle, it's a great header as well. Very
Not
often you
not
see him
known,
going all over the place, but it
yeah,
was a really, really good header. So
not known for his heading ability, Martin Boyle.
no, that brings it back to 2-2. And from then on, really, it was a kind of just attack versus attack game. Either team could have won it. Rangers had chances, Hibs had chances, right up until really the last few seconds where Boyle goes through. And I was
Oh
like,
yeah.
this is him for his 100th goal. And he just takes a bad touch, which happens. He did well to get himself in that position. And then it just kind of trickles through to the keeper then. But it was a fantastic last day, the atmosphere. I put up a little short in our YouTube channel of where I was sitting. Just stadium was pretty much full. Everyone behind the team. There was like a carnival atmosphere. Everyone in beach balls. You could just feel the togetherness of the club, and it was just like such a pleasure
Mm.
to be there and to witness it, and also to be there to give the players and their families and the management staff the kind of praise that they deserve as well. Most people stayed behind to clap the team round. Dwight Gale's last game as well. He's the example of what a lone player should be. A guy that comes in, integrates himself in the club, gives it his all, and he'll always be welcome now. But in Edinburgh, certainly in the green and white half anyway, because he's been an important player, and from what Gray says, he's an important player for the younger players off the pitch as well. So it was just
Brilliant.
it was just a brilliant end to the season, and I'm so glad that I got to go.
That's a great one to go to when everything's wrapped up. You're at home, and really it generally does not matter about the result at that point, within reason. Obviously, it's nice to get something quite positive from the game. But I mean, funnily enough, the two games that spring to my mind for Hearts were both against Rangers. One when we finished second in the first Roman off season, and we'd secured it against Aberdeen on the Wednesday. We had Rangers at the weekend at Ibrox. We actually lost 2-0, but everyone took newspapers through and just sat and read
Yeah,
the paper, not watching
yeah,
the game, which is really good. And the other one was when we won when the three of us were all in the championship, and we won the league with a few games to spare. And so when Rangers came to Ibrox again, Rangers came to Tynecastle, it was they actually went 2-0 up, and we just didn't care. But we actually pulled it back to 2-2. I remember it, a couple of really good goals. Um, and like we were just laughing at Rangers because they were saying they were going to stroll the league. Who cares about Hearts and Hibs, blah blah blah. And it was nice to put them in their place a wee bit with that. So I get the feeling that you're talking about there, and there's very little that could have gone wrong at Easter Road on Saturday there. Even if you lost 3-0, it doesn't matter. You've done what you needed to do.
yeah. What I liked is the players didn't play like it didn't matter,
No, no.
and it would have been easy for them. They've played under immense pressure really all season because of our start, and then to get ourselves in the top six, and then to get ourselves in a position to challenge for third. This was a game where you could forgive them a little bit for saying, you know what, we've achieved
Aye.
more than what we set out this season.
We've got
Let's
one
take
foot,
off the gas a bit, but they didn't.
yeah,
And we need
foot
to
off the
remember,
gas and yeah.
as poor of Rangers have been, they still have better players in every position just about than Hibs. Do you know what I mean?
Course, I mean, you just need to look at their budget. It's ridiculous. No, no, I get that. I get that, and we'll talk about the season as a whole in a bit there, but just a really positive one. I suppose I'll do a couple of quick reviews for Hearts. The game's not massively important. That said, we finished the season on a real positive. We're actually the form team in the league, 4 wins in a row. Albeit, we're playing against the lower half of the league, which we wouldn't like to be. Um, but the only thing you can do against teams in the bottom half of the league is beat them, and we've done that certainly since changing manager and relatively comfortably. St Johnstone, we went 2-0 up. Everything just largely comfortable there. Kind of expected St Johnstone to come back into it in the second half, which they did. Not massively in terms of the game. They got a really good goal, great free kick, but I knew they were going to go for it because they had to. Otherwise, they were relegated, and obviously that is ultimately what happened. So, for me, actually, a positive to have nothing to play for and be up against a team that has everything to play for, even when you're better than them. It's as you just said there. It's easy to just stroll it, but actually, no, we did a professional job, and nothing against St Johnstone, obviously, but we wanted to win the game. If that means they get relegated, then okay, so be it. That's on them, not us. Um, so yeah, fair dues. We kept them at arm's length even when they were really going for it. And then on Sunday there, obviously we beat Kilmarnock as well. I mean, straight away a win at Rugby Park on that pitch is, I mean, I hate that pitch. Just it's horrendous to play on.
So bad.
A nice reversal from us being down to 10 men the last time and losing one. No, sorry, them being down to 10 men and us losing 1-0. This time we're down to 10 men and losing 1-0. But again, talking about the Hearts, bit of bad luck. I don't know if you've seen the incident with Danda.
I've not seen it. No.
I mean, he's bombing through. He's making a dart. He gets shoved, and as he does, I mean, there's no doubt he catches Finlay studs on calf, but he's been shoved into it. Quite how the ref deems it to be a red card. I mean, it's incredible. Um,
I'm going to agree with the ref.
yeah,
Without,
yeah, yeah. No,
without seeing it, it was a red card.
yeah, no, Stonewall. Honestly, it just it's the sort of one that you look at it slow motion or you see a still, you think, oh, gee, dearie me, there's no argument there. But again, you just need to look at the fact he gets shoved literally before it. I mean, there's no way he's in control of it. I don't know. Thankfully, it's like you say about the if it was against Hibs that goal, the Rangers non-goal, you wouldn't be laughing about it. And if that had cost us, if it had been a red like that in like a derby match or something like that, it's less funny. But I mean, just it just sums up what I feel like the luck that Hearts have been getting. And look, I know that not everyone agrees with my opinions on some of the red cards recently or whatever. My suggestion is that they could all easily go a different way, and it just feels like they're not right now for us. That that's no excuse for our season, which we'll come on to in a bit. But I do believe that, as I've said with Hibs, they've been good. I think they've had better results at times because of luck. Hearts, they've been poor, but I think results have been worse in games where you have a bad bit of luck as well. So the opposite is true as well.
What I would say to that, Stuart, is apparently after that last run of games there, Hibs only have one VAR panel review in their favour over the season as a whole.
Um, no, no, but I know, but well, I would. What do you mean since what run of form?
Like the season as a whole.
All right. Well, I mean straight away I can give you.
I was looking at a stat online and it said that it gives you the for and against who it's
I
benefiting,
can I
and
can list
apparently
you
it's only
three.
+1 for Hibs.
I can list you three right now in Hibs' favour.
I know, but you're not taking into account the ones that.
Oh, you're talking about like a plus, like a goal
Yeah,
difference.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, well, again, for me, it still depends on the consequence of it. But also for me, that's what I'm saying is the run that in which you've been doing well, these are going in your favour. And okay, the one against Celtic, I agree. There's no conclusive evidence to say that the ball was still in. The one against Rangers, I still don't think there's conclusive evidence that the ball's over the line. Okay, it probably was. I still think the Dalby header was a ridiculous decision. I thought it was crazy. But this is my point. If they're going in your favour, that's going to enhance what are already good performances and good results that you're getting. And there's no doubt that, let's say Celtic get that equaliser, Rangers get what probably goes to be a winner. In that game, Dalby gets either a winner or an equaliser or whatever that ends up being for Dundee United. You have fewer points as a result of that. Similarly, I could say the same about Hearts against Dundee United. We're all over them until we go down to 10 men. Um, you know, anyway, the point remains is that decisions that could go a certain way, I still feel like we're just not quite getting them yet. And the Danda one is another example of it. If you get a chance to see it, it's really bizarre.
I'll have a look at it
Aye, right, exactly. Yeah,
with,
with your green
with,
glasses
with my green glasses on. Of course, I can't take them off.
on. No, listen. As I say, there's not much chat from that game other than to say I just think it's a shocking refereeing decision. But I suppose the bigger talking point is who wasn't there. Obviously, our old manager was not in the dugout, but Kilmarnock's current manager, or well, not at time of recording, but on Saturday, Sunday was not in the dugout either. Derek McInnes photo went out today on social media with him with the Hearts scarf around the neck. So that's it. He's in. He is the Hearts manager. Um, we spoke about it last week. For me, it's a safe pair of hands, and I was actually thinking, what when I talk about McInnes coming in, is it the most exciting appointment in the world? No, but then exciting isn't always good. Exciting can leave you really vulnerable as well. And Hibs have been burnt by that as much as Hearts have. Sean Maloney, for example, he was what was he? Had all the UEFA badges. He'd done well at certain clubs, and he ended
This
up.
is the Belgian national team.
Exactly. He was a Cathro, but with football pedigree. That's what
Mm,
he was.
mm,
Sean Baloney, I think our friend Bassett calls him.
yeah,
Um, so McInnes for me is someone who I believe will meet expectations for Hearts without necessarily exceeding them. I don't think he's an exceeding expectations guy, but um, I dare say just after the season we've had, we'll take that. And I know there's been plenty of times in the years you've supported Hibs that you would take a let's just meet expectations rather than exceed them. I'll take that for
yeah.
now.
And as I said, McInnes is a guy I was thinking we may turn to
Yeah.
before Gray was appointed, because we again have had just manager after manager, a conveyor belt, that it just we needed that safe pair of hands to come
And I
in.
dare, I dare say, there's an alternative reality, alternative universe where he is the Hibs manager right now because let's say you do sack David Gray, which it wouldn't have been the most ridiculous decision in the world at one point. Um, he's quite possibly the man you would have got in.
Possibly, I'm sure him and Robinson would have been
Aye.
top of the thoughts in terms of who to bring in. So look, it swings and roundabouts. I think you're right. I think it's a safe pair of hands.
Hmm.
I'm not overly worried because I think we're in a great place ourselves. I think we're probably going to have more money coming in through the European football as well. I think Celtic will pump Aberdeen in the final, and I think we'll be pretty safe that way. And I think we'll be able to strengthen as well. And we've got a good core group there. And if we add in the right areas, which we started to do with McGrath coming in, add three or four to that pool, and I think we're gonna contend for third again next season.
Can I ask one thing that I was hearing lots of when you were playing really badly, and admittedly this was a while ago now. There was a lot of chat about how many players were out of contract, even players like Triantis. Triantis is on loan.
Yeah.
He'll, but I doubt he'll be there next season unless he's interested in renewing, I guess. Um, are there not quite a few who are out of contract for Hibs? We were talking about a massive rebuild at one point.
Well, we've Chris Cadden, Lewis Miller, Smith the keeper, Iredale's on a permanent already. Joe Newell's under contract.
Martin Boyle signed a
Boyle
new one.
signed the new one. So it's really just Dwight Gale retiring. Junior Hoylett, I'm sure we're going to offer him another year. We'd be silly not to. Kukurevich will go back to his own club. I wouldn't mind him as a squad player.
Yeah,
Bowie's a permanent.
yep.
Nicky Cadden's under contract. So that's what I'm saying. We've managed to get business done early that way in terms of tying members down and Rocky as well. We need to obviously. I'm sure we're going to offer him a contract as well, but he may wish to go other places. And the way I see it is, anyone that doesn't want to stay, let them go. I don't want players at the club.
No,
I,
the reason I
I
was
don't want to
asking
be there.
The reason I was asking is that I remember all the chat about, and again, at the time it was that Hibs were, they're playing terribly, or certainly not getting results, the bottom of the table, and all the players are going out. And I was going, right, fair enough, I get that their form's changed and they're playing better, but I didn't hear much about how many contracts had been renewed or whatever. I knew that a few had, but no, you reckon Hibs are in a good place going into the transfer window. I suppose the only thing I would say about the money is you won't have any of that yet, the European money.
No, we won't. But we're in a good place financially,
Did you
and
not? I'm sure you had big losses last year.
yeah, but that was written off by the Gordons.
Okay. Okay.
So the way I see it is that we will be in a position to strengthen this season, and we're probably going to get money. Probably sell Venti at least. Probably Johan as well. He's not kicked the ball. I don't know what's going on there. He was
Forgot.
in the squad at the last game of the season, but he didn't get on, so he'll probably go as well. So I think from player sales, from the European trip, and from finishing third as well, you'll get a fair whack for that. I think that we will be in a position to strengthen. And, we've already brought in, as I said, Jamie McGrath into a good Hibs midfield. Okay, we've lost Triantis. I think there's talk of us offering a permanent deal for him. But again, he's going to have offers elsewhere. So
And there'd be presumably a transfer fee involved unless he's out of
it
contract.
would be, yeah. He's at Sunderland.
Well,
So unless
depends.
the team is part of his plans, I
Hmm.
wouldn't say he's good enough to go to, you know, to play kind of top end championship yet or Premiership. I think Hibs is a good level for him just now. I think he could, if he kind of sorts out a couple of things in his game, he could play at the highest level, but he's not there yet. And I think he could do a lot worse than playing for Hibs for another couple of seasons and then be ready for his big move then.
Hmm. Hmm. Especially with the upcoming relegation fight they will no doubt experience at Hibs as they next season. No, no, fair enough, fair enough. I suppose we've started to look ahead as to what. So you're talking about Hibs being in a good position to strengthen, having a
Yeah,
bit of core there already. McGrath coming in, Trantas we'll wait and see. Gale away, Hoylett, you're hoping stays, but too early to say. Um,
Rocky.
Rocky, if I were to ask you then, where do you feel like you need to strengthen? Let's say you're able to bring in up to somewhere between 3 and 5 bodies. You don't need to name names because I realize that at our level, sometimes it can be quite obscure names. But what do you want?
Another goalkeeper.
Hmm.
I think Smith's been very good, but I think we need another goalkeeper ready to challenge him for that number one spot. I'm not going to go as harsh to say to replace him, but I do think that we need another reliable number one to contend with him for that space. Depending on what Miller does, possibly another cover at right back if he does go. There's talk of clubs being interested in him. He's under contract, but there's talk that he could go. So another centre half, even if Rocky stays, there's talk of Porteous coming in if Rocky does go. I would take that
Yes.
all day. Yeah. So I would say another winger as well and another striker. And I'd be happy with that. I think we only need 3 or 4 top quality, not top quality, but obviously, top quality for Hibs
Still relative.
to be able to come in and and add to what we've already got there. And that's even if we do have a couple of outgoings. But if we bring those guys in ready to challenge for those first team spots, we should be okay.
No, fair enough. Fair enough. Looking at the Hearts squads, we've actually got two or three transfers announced already. And we've got, I'm going to forget names, a Scandinavian fullback coming in, a Norwegian guy. We've needed a right back for a while. It looked at one point like Taylor was the answer. Apart from anything else, he had a bad injury record. So, you know, I, I, I dare say there is still something there, and it wouldn't surprise me if he went on and did well. But anyway, good to get a right back in. Let's see what he's like. He's coming with all this, this Jamestown analytics stuff behind him. We've got a winger coming in, Kazakhstani winger with great numbers from where he is. He had quite a few clubs interested in him. Let's see again how he gets on. I'd say wingers more than any position on the pitch. They're the sort of ones that can easily come over to the Scottish game and find out that it's quite physical and actually go on to have a good career elsewhere. But it's just a bit different, playing up against some of the more industrious defenders that you find in Scotland. People like yourself, Robert, when you played.
That's
Uh,
it. That's it.
so they're two of the big positions I would have said, but we've already got transfers lined up for them. I think regardless of what happens with Shankland, I'd like to see a striker come in. We've got an option to sign Kabangu. I think depending on what the numbers are like for that, I would take that. There's no doubt that his dip in form coincided with him getting moved out wider. But when he played through the middle, as you saw yourself, he was banging in a few goals. Um, so yeah, if
Definitely think there's a good player.
oh, and he's still young. He is still young. He's got a lot of attributes about him. So it'd be a good option if nothing else, if we can play him centrally again. So depending on the numbers, we might have Kabanga there. But even then, I'd probably still like another option in the forward areas. Wilson's great, but I actually wouldn't mind getting James Wilson out on loan for a season.
Mm.
Get even down to St Johnstone in the Championship, wherever. Get because he's clearly a good player, no doubt. Um, Centre midfield. The thing that makes it difficult to look at where we strengthen with Hearts. I'm actually also going to say a left back because I have a sneaky feeling that the Jamestown analytics model is basically that when players are at their highest value, if an offer comes in, you sell them. And it wouldn't surprise me if Penrice went for that reason. He's had a really good season. Okay, tailed off slightly towards the end, but he was our bright spot for a number of months. Um, it's probably going to be his highest value. It wouldn't surprise me if for that reason he goes. Same with someone like Beningame. He's a brilliant player. He's actually managed to stay fit for a little while. He is genuinely too good for Hearts. When he's on his game, he is a brilliant player. Um, the only thing that might put clubs off is the fact he is prone to an injury. So let's see what happens with that. But again, ultimately, Jamestown will come up with a number that is an acceptable offer for these players, and if it's good, they take it. And it's why even someone like Jamie McCart, who we got for something like 70 grand in January, the number I read, I don't know how accurate this is, but someone said basically if someone offered 700 grand, the Jamestown model is you take that and you reinvest it elsewhere. I'm willing to give the Jamestown analytics thing my full backing. I don't really know enough about it yet though to be able to sort of predict what we need or say what we need because I feel like that could change at any minute based on the offers that come in and for who. And if Penrice goes,
Whenever I hear,
yeah,
sorry, I was going to say, whenever I hear about like Jamestown analytics, I just picture like these guys all sitting around like
like
a
World of
medieval
Warcraft,
table,
yeah.
dressed like Guy Fawkes, like that era, and they've just all got laptops in front of them, and none of them actually have a clue about football. They're just looking at the data.
Guy Fawkes, who was a big fan of laptops as well. But well, I get where you're coming from there. But what all I would say is if you point to Union Saint-Gilloise, Belgium, to Brighton, uh,
No, I know. It's a model that's been successful elsewhere, but I do hold reservations about whether that's successful in Scotland because it's such a unique league, as we've discussed. It's so physical that even someone good on paper can struggle.
but this is where their analytics goes beyond that. So it analyzes the Scottish League. So it's not looking at this player would be good for any club. at that particular level. It's just a case of it's more specific than that. Would this player, how do they deal with physical teams? How do they deal with plastic pitches?
I
How,
know, but they couldn't go into the detail like how is that heart swinger that you've signed? How's he going to deal when he comes up against like Gogic, for example?
no, I know that, but they can measure how he deals with physical defenders. And
Hmm.
listen, I'm not saying that that means he's guaranteed to be a success. I'm confident that as much as the Scottish unique league is unique for certain reasons, every league can be unique for certain reasons as well. And that's what this model does, is it takes all those things into account. So listen, it's too early to say. I don't think it'll be an overnight thing. A lot of it is about off the pitch as much as it is on the pitch, i.e., that investment and reinvestment. But if you run well off the pitch, it helps you on the pitch. I think between that, I don't know what happens with this Tony Bloom money, the 10 million that comes in, but I think any club would be happy with 10 million pound of investment. That doesn't mean we're going to sign a 10 million pound player or anything like that, but it's more money into the club. We've also got 3 out of 4 seasons of European money. We've actually not spent a huge amount of that from what I've seen as well. I'm confident that we've got money to spend, and I'm confident that we've got a model in place that allows us to spend it wisely as well. And we've got a manager who can get the most out of players that he's got. So actually, I think we could have a really good season next season if all these things are what they seem to be. There's always things as well, like, McInnes coming in, we're talking about it being a safe pair of hands. Terry Butcher was a safe pair of hands for Hibs, supposedly, and he is arguably your worst manager ever. Anything can go wrong with these things. We could sign a surefire thing. Like we signed Snodgrass, and for a while he was brilliant, and then we had to let him go early from his contract. It was awful for the club. I'm sure, Hibs will have a million stories that are the same as well of
Yes.
surefire
Yeah.
things that have been disasters.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, listen, we'll see how it goes. It makes answering the question of where do Hearts need to strengthen in summer difficult because it can change really quickly
Yeah.
with.
Yeah. And I think I was trying to speak to my dad about this. I was trying to say we need to kind of see how the summer goes, see who we bring in, and then see what our squad is looking like when we're stretched on a Thursday and a Sunday. We won't know until then exactly, have we done good business? Have we done enough business? You just won't know until new players come in
Yeah.
and until the previous players, will they keep form? Are they going to meet the standards that they've set this year? Is that going to continue on next season? It's very difficult to do that.
I mean, you're looking at injuries and fatigue, obviously, and I can tell you firsthand, Hearts have had a couple of group stage adventures, which is great, and you never change that. But if you're looking at Hibs, and I'm looking at two of their better attacking players as Boyle and Hoylett,
Mm.
they're not exactly young whippersnappers. Can they handle 2 games a week and 2 games where they might not have a lot of the ball? Let's say they're at Celtic and then away to, I don't know, like Fiorentina or something like that, like Hearts have had. And then after those 2 games where they've just been chasing the ball for 180 minutes, you've got to go to St Mirren.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
that's the last thing you want at that point.
it's true, and that's why we need to spend wisely. We need reinforcements, we need numbers, but we also need quality as well, so that we can rotate the squad because that is going to be required.
Yeah.
It just is.
Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves just yet for next season because, as you say, I think when it comes to predictions for next season, we need to see how it goes. Hearts, like I say, I'm excited about this Jamestown thing, but let's see how it goes. Hibs, you're saying that there's money there, but they might say, well, look, we've not got the European money yet, so we can't spend it yet. Let's wait and see what happens in August time. But first, we'll look back at the season that's just gone, highlights and lowlights. I feel like you could take one half of it, I could take the other half. That said, I suppose, Robert, to give you even more dues for how high the season has been, you had a pretty low start.
It was bad, and that's where my low lights do come from. Is the start we had? It was just so disappointing. Again, I agree, McGree. We weren't as bad as what results were showing. It was individual errors. It was red cards. It was players switching off in the 91st minute to either lose you the game or to from a winnable position to a draw, a game that we dominated and played reasonably well, and they just kept on happening and happening, and the writing did seem to be on the wall for Gray. So I would put the low light as those first few weeks in the season, just as a whole, when we were on that terrible run. It just felt like we couldn't catch a break. It felt like anyone was going to switch off at any time and just cost us the game. And it looked like it was going to be the end for Gray. So that was a pretty poor period for us. And at the time when you're in it was very hard to keep any optimism and say, well, okay, we're not as bad as what we're showing. I can say that now because, we've managed to probably overachieve this season. But when you were in it, it was desperate. It was really, really poor. And we were fearing the worst. Another managerial sacking, who we're going to get in next, and possible even relegation battle as well. So all those things mixed in. My low light to the season would be those kind of first few weeks.
I think what got me as well, and what makes the whole thing since then even more remarkable, is that you were, yeah, all right, fine. I take Gray's point, but there were some games you were terrible,
Yeah.
but like there wasn't anything that particularly inspired me about Hibs in those early seasons that made me think they were going to do what they were going to do. I,
No.
I thought they'll probably not get relegated. They'll probably will have enough to stay up, but they're going to be finishing ninth or something like that. And actually, if that had happened and we're sitting there in ninth, there's almost, because as football fans we always try and put a positive spin on it. You're saying, well, do you know what? From where we started, ninth, we'll take that, and blah blah blah. But obviously, that's it's a lot worse than what you did in reality.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want me to go into the highlight as well?
One,
It's between two. It's between two things. I think the best week was our 9 points out of nine.
yeah, I remember that.
Remember, what was it? Dundee United, Hearts, and Celtic.
I think so. Yeah, yeah.
That week, I think it was that 9 out of 9, and it was such a big, big week because Hearts could have closed the gap on us. I think we were talking about how close it could have been, and it just felt at that point, beating those three teams in that week, it just felt like a real kind of sliding doors moment. And obviously, our season changed when Rocky got that equaliser. The players just seemed to change. It prompted a formation change from Gray. All that kind of fed into the beginnings of a good season for us when that happened. Looking back, but that week I think was probably the highlight of the week. The highlight, and the Derby win as well. Gale's goal that goes in there. I think
Castle as well.
beating Hearts at Tynecastle, ending that kind of few year hoodoo, and then going on to that 9 out of 9 week was pretty special.
The 9 out of 9 week, from my point of view, for the Hibs, is that's when I started thinking. It went from, all right, they've lifted themselves out of trouble here. They'll possibly get top six, to hang on a minute, they might finish third.
Yeah,
That was the difference there. It was a real, obviously the 9 points themselves are,
huge.
it's the same 9 points you get from beating St Mirren, St Johnstone, Ross County, and Kilmarnock, but
Yeah,
it's it was worth so much more, and it really was just the momentum, the belief it gave, and Hibs after that, there were so many games they were going in with a swagger, as in,
yeah,
we're going to win this,
exactly.
rather than we could win this.
Yeah,
It was, we will, and it was obviously horrible viewing from then on in for a Hearts fan.
yeah.
So
That, that, that,
sorry,
that
that was one of your, so your two highlights was, sorry, the Tynecastle win and the 9 out of 9
yeah,
week.
yeah. That's mine.
Fair enough. Um, from a Hearts point of view, it's funny. Obviously, overall the season itself has been a low light. If I look back at all the seasons I've supported Hearts, this has been one of the poorer ones. That said, we've had some European adventures. I remember in particular one game at Tynecastle against Ammonia, a Cypriot team. We were phenomenal. Forrest scored a screamer, Spittle scored a screamer. We were 2-0 up after 30 minutes. The atmosphere was incredible. It was under the floodlights. It was brilliant. It was genuinely brilliant. Um, And even though Europe was disappointing, you can't beat a European night because as Hearts and Hibs fans, we don't get them particularly often. So that was amazing. You know, we thumped Dundee 6-1. Again, as Hearts and Hibs fans, you don't often get a 6-1 victory in the league. You might do it in the cup against a lower league team, but in the league it doesn't happen often. And again, it's one that didn't go well when we got there, but we've had the Scottish Cup semi-final as well. Again, not necessarily something that Hearts and Hibs get to. Well, Hearts have actually got a good record this recently, but overall, not something we get to do very often.
Hibs have a good record as well of getting there.
I'm getting to say, oh, okay, fair enough then. But all the same, it's we've had worse seasons in the Scottish Cup.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's funny. We have had like a few good moments, but there's no doubt that the season itself has just been a disappointment because ultimately, when pushes come to shove, whether it's the game against the bloody Sunday pub team in Europe to get through, where we should have been winning that, we weren't lucky to get a draw. We were behind twice, but we were miles better than them. Just a poor result. The two Hibs games, obviously, it's you never like losing a derby. Um,
Back
uh,
to back and close together as well.
yeah, no, of course, of course. Listen, we've won enough for me to know what it's like, Robert.
No, I know, but I just mean the way it happened. It
Yeah, I
was
know. Of
spaced out from one end of the season to the other. It was, I think that did increase the pressure on Critchley as well. Just the
course,
fact that we two close together.
it goes back to that big game record, but also Hearts and Hibs, they both had similar seasons in terms of started really badly and got better, but it was just the rate at which they got better. Um, because ultimately, if Hibs had gone on, I've just said it there, if they went on to finish seventh after their start, they probably would have been like, "Ah, fine, okay, whatever." Um, but like all joking aside, this is going to sound like I'm trying to have a dig at Hibs here. In my lifetime, Hearts have had a better derby record than Hibs. That is a fact. So for us to not win at all season is a stinker for us. It's a shocker for us. To lose back to back, to in some ways to have the winners both so dramatic as well. You know,
Mm,
like a sort of volley from a centre half and Dwight Gale with a reasonably late goal from memory.
yeah.
Um, yeah, all those things. The better it is for Hibs, basically, the worse it is for Hearts. And aye, so that stings a bit as well. To the Motherwell and Dundee United games pretty low as well. So yeah, despite the fact that there have been a few highlights, overall there's no doubt it's been a disappointing season with quite a few moments in the big games. Um, Disappointing, but actually the one thing I would say is I actually think the biggest disappointment for me was really went into the season with real optimism. I thought
Mm,
we had a strong team behind us. Nobody could have envisaged Shanklin dropping off the way that he did. So, I'll defend my initial optimism a little bit because of that. We'd also finished third at a relative canter the season before. Rangers were looking weak. I genuinely thought, and Jan Danda coming in, I thought it was a really exciting signing at the time. He was great at Ross County. Honestly, I think my biggest disappointment was actually also those initial few weeks. It's
mm,
Hearts' worst ever start to a season,
mm,
ever. From 1874 till now, worst ever start to a season. And to go from thinking, do you know what, we might put Rangers under a bit of pressure to literally worst ever start to the season, starting to lift away and thinking, all right, we could still get third here and then falling away again. I didn't ever really think we were in a relegation battle after that. I know people like to talk about it, but I just didn't think we were. I don't know. It felt so good at the start of the season to then just be really rubbish and then just a bit meh after that, the whole thing.
mm. I would say as well, just if I can have another highlight, would be Saturday as well, because it's not often you can go into the game. We've had so many high pressured games, and I could just go and enjoy the game
Yeah.
without thinking, what if this happens? What if that happens? I could just go and enjoy the game. And that's what I did. And it was just such a nice feeling knowing points are in the bag. We've secured third and I could actually make it as well. Because as I said, I've not been able to make any of these big matches that we've actually won. So it was nice to go and actually see us play reasonably well. We weren't amazing, but reasonably well. And just to watch a really good game of football.
Mm. Well, looking forward to next season. Obviously, I mean, if I'm sorry, I'm going to jump in with a final disappointment. You've given a final highlight. I'll give a final disappointment. Our lack of goals. We had the third best defensive record in the league this season, and normally defensive records build you up either to win a league or to achieve your goal, whatever it might be. And got to actually, the more I think about it, they just keep coming. So let's draw a line under the highlights and the lowlights for now. Um,
Favorite player of the season, would it be Penrice for you?
mm, no, no, I think he was great. I think he went off the boil a bit towards the end though. Bellingham.
I think
He
it'd be
is a classy footballer, phenomenal at winning the ball back. Um, I know fans can get overexcited about their players. I trust that anyone listening to this will realise that there's not been too much to get overexcited about with Hearts this season. But I think even as a Hibs fan, you can recognise that Beningame is a very good footballer.
yeah, he's a good player.
Nah, come on, a bit more than that, mate.
He's a good player.
Oh, I'm winding you up. I'm winding you up. It's always the same. When it's one of your own, you either recognise or believe he's at that.
I don't see him week in week out, and I always say like I'll the games I have seen him, he's looked good. When yous were on top at Easter Road, he looked really good. But I don't always think he's the best player. Maybe when the chips are down,
I would disagree with that because I actually think he's a ball winner as well. But again, like you say, it's
I
you
don't
don't.
see him week in week out. Like I can't comment enough on it
He's
to
also been too
with any
injured.
authority.
He's been
My
too much of him. But your player of the season,
Nicky Cads.
thought so.
What a guy! I love a crosser of the ball. I love it. I love a set piece specialist. I love a big striker as well. But they don't really have old school strikers like they used to with like Alan Shearer and these guys. Loved them. But I love a great crosser of the ball and someone that's just got a wand of a left foot, and that's what he's got. He's and you know what he is as well. He's so hard working as well. See, like the Rangers game, I was
Mm.
watching him and he was up and down that line. He was back in defensive positions, but when we attack, he just knows where to be. And when he gets that ball, the quality of that left foot, I mean, it's just a striker's dream. Um, that he's just such a great player to watch.
I've got another low light from the season, and that's you referring to him as Nicky Cads. Oh God, what a way to finish the season there, Robert. Nicky Cads. Um, Rob, congratulations. Hibs obviously have had the much better season out of the two Edinburgh clubs here, no doubt about that. But we'll be gunning for you next season. Big Dale.
We welcome the chase, Stuart. We welcome the chase. And look, I think Hearts will be more competitive next season. I think Hibs and Hearts will be challenging for those third, fourth spots as well. You know, I'm not thinking Hearts are going to get relegated or anything like that.
Famous last words.
I think both clubs are going to be quite strong next season. So I think it's going to be a really exciting season next season. Just because this is our last pod for a while, I think it's appropriate to kind of thank our listeners and putting in all the comments, Hibs and Hearts,
Mm.
all the likes, all the subscribers. It was really good. We do this for a bit of fun,
Mm.
so it's great to have you guys engage with us as well. We've had a few personal messages as well, which is really nice. People listening that know my dad and stuff like that, and look, I'm sure vice versa as well. So that's been really nice. We are going to take a break over the summer.
We'll jump in with maybe one episode here and there, reviewing the transfers, perhaps.
When as they go along, yeah. But we're
Other
not
than
going to be doing the weekly, but we do ask you to keep an eye on the channel. And obviously, when the new season kind of heats up, when we've got transfers to talk about, we'll come back on and start them again.
No, well said, Robert. Yeah, big thanks to everyone for getting involved. It is a bit of fun, and we enjoy it if nothing else.
Exactly.
Right, guys. So for this season, thank God it's over, and
Don't want it to end.
we'll see you for Hibs' miserable European campaign and relegation fight next year.
We'll see you next year.